What's up guys, it is Mike from Mandal Hoarders. In this video we are bringing you a commander deck tech for one of the new commanders from Jumpstart, a Rakdos commander, Sethron, Herloon General. You can cast Sethron for 3 and 2 red. He is a 4/4 Minotaur warrior. His text reads, whenever Sethron or another non-token Minotaur enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/3 red Minotaur creature token. You can also pay 2 in either a red or a black to give Minotaurs you control +1/+0 and menace and haste until end of turn. The final price for this build came in at $177.89. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now bear in mind some of these prices may vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. In terms of power level, I would rate this deck at around a 5 out of 10 on the power scale. We are focusing more on Minotaur Tribal, and I just wanted to have a lot of fun with this commander. Now we are going to be running some cards that allow us to make lots of tokens so we can overwhelm the board. We're going to have plenty of cards that give us tons of keyword abilities, making it very difficult for opponents to stop our Minotaur army. Last of all, we want to have some cards that can help us recur our Minotaurs from our graveyard, so we are able to keep casting them and keep generating these 2/3 tokens off our commander. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the cards we are going to find in the deck. First up are our artifacts. For 5 mana, we can cast Conjurer's Closet. It reads, at the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under your control. This will allow us to bounce our Minotaurs, generating more 2/3 tokens off of our commander's ability. And we'll be doing roughly the same thing with Erratic Portal. If we pay 1 and tap it, we can return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. We're going to use this to target our Minotaurs, to bounce them back to our hand, and then recast them while our commander is out on the battlefield. For some tribal support, we have Icon of Ancestry. When it enters, we will choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type will get +1/+1, and then we can always pay 3 and tap it to look at the top 3 cards and put a creature of the chosen type from among them into our hand and the rest of the cards on the bottom of our library. Helping us get multiple triggers off of our commander is Panharmonicon. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield would cause a triggered ability of a permanent we control to trigger, that ability will trigger an additional time. We have Rakdos Cluestone. It can tap to add a black or a red to our mana pool. We can also pay a red and a black to tap it and sacrifice it to draw a card. We also have Rakdos Locket. It can tap to add a red or a black. We can also pay 4 in any combination of red and black, tap it, and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. We can use Rakdos Signet. We can pay 1, tap it to add a black and a red to our mana pool. Helping us search for some basic lands whenever we attack, we have Sword of the Animist. The equipped creature will get +1/+1, and whenever they attack, we will search our library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. And for 1, we can cast Wayfarer's Bauble. We can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it, search our library for a basic land card, and put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then we will shuffle our library. Next up are our creatures. Our 3 most notable, besides our commander, are very good commanders themselves. I call these the NEHEBS because we are running all 3 versions of Neheb. This first one is Neheb Dreadhorde Champion. For 2 and 2 red, we get this 5/4 zombie Minotaur warrior with trample. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker, we can discard any number of cards. If we do, we'll draw that many cards and add that much red mana to our mana pool. And then until the end of turn, we don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. We also have Neheb the Eternal. For 3 and 2 red, we get this 4/6 zombie Minotaur warrior with Afflict 3. Whenever it becomes blocked, the defending player will lose 3 life. Also, his ability reads, at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, we will add red to our mana pool for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. And last but not least, we have Neheb the Worthy. For 1, a black and a red, we get a 2/2 Minotaur warrior with First Strike. He will give other Minotaurs we control First Strike, and as long as we have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Minotaurs we control will get +2/+0. Also, whenever Neheb deals combat damage to a player, each player will discard a card. Next up, we have some of our non-Minotaur creatures, or as I like to call them, our Minotaur allies. First is Archetype of Aggression. Creatures we control have trample, and creatures our opponents control cannot have trample or gain trample. We have Archetype of Finality. Creatures we control have Death Touch, and creatures our opponents control cannot have or gain Death Touch. For 1 and a red, we can cast Bloodmark Mentor. It'll give red creatures we control First Strike. The average converted mana cost of a lot of our Minotaurs sits right around 3, so we are running a few Changelings as some cheap options to get some value out of our commander. We have Changeling Outcast. For 1 black, it can't block or be blocked. For 1 and a red, we have Firebelly Changeling. We can also pay 1 and a red to give it +1/+0. For 1 and a black, we have Skeletal Changeling. We can regenerate it for 1 and a black. And for 1 generic mana, we can cast Universal Automaton. For a black and a red, we can cast Labyrinth Raptor. It is a 2/2 Nightmare Dinosaur with Menace. Its ability reads, whenever a creature we control with Menace becomes blocked, the defending player will sacrifice a creature blocking it. We can also pay a black and a red to give creatures we control with Menace +1/+0 until end of turn. This is useful because with our commander's second ability, we'll be paying 3 to give all of our Minotaurs haste, Menace, and a +1/+0, so this is a great way to draw more value off of that. And for 3 and 2 red, a card that I am very excited about from M21 is Terror of the Peaks. This 5/4 dragon with flying will make our opponents pay 3 life anytime they want to target it. Also, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, Terror of the Peaks will deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. And moving on to our Minotaurs. First up we have Anaba Spirit Crafter, Dreamshaper Shaman, Fanatic of Mogis, Felhide Petrifier, Felhide Spiritbinder, Glint-Horn Buccaneer, Kragma Butcher, Kragma Warcaller, Lightning Visionary, Lord of Shatterskull Pass, Minotaur Sureshot, Oracle of Bones, Rageblood Shaman, Ragemonger, Rage-Scarred Berserker, and Smeltboard Minotaur. We will be running a total of 8 enchantments. Berserker's Onslaught for 3 and 2 red, we can give attacking creatures we control double strike. Cover of Darkness for 1 in the black. Whenever it enters the battlefield, we'll choose a creature type, and then creatures of the chosen type will have fear. Diabolic Servitude. Whenever we cast it, we'll choose a creature in our graveyard and return it to the battlefield. Whenever that creature dies, we will exile and put Diabolic Servitude back into our hand, and if Diabolic Servitude ever leaves the battlefield, we're going to exile that creature. Fiery Emancipation. Whenever a source we control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals 3 times that much damage to that permanent or player instead. For 1 in the red, we have Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature we control enters the battlefield, Impact Tremors will deal 1 damage to each opponent. Intimidation. For 2 and 3 black, we can give all creatures we control fear. For 5 in a red, we can cast Mirror March. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, we'll flip a coin until we lose a flip, and then for each flip that we won, we'll create a token that's a copy of the creature. Those tokens gain haste, and then we will exile them at the beginning of the next end step. And we have Quest for Pure Flame. Whenever a source we control deals damage to an opponent, we can put a quest counter on Quest for Pure Flame. Then if we remove 4 counters and sacrifice it, any source we control that will deal damage to a creature or player this turn deals double that damage instead. Next up, for our instants, we have Battle Hymn. We can add a red to our mana pool for each creature we control. For 1 in a black, we can cast Devour Flesh. Target player will sacrifice a creature and then gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Also, for 1 in a black, we can cast Diabolic Edict. We can make target player sacrifice a creature. For 1 in a black, we can cast Grim Harvest. We will return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. We can also recover it for 2 in a black. For 1 and 2 black, we can cast Hideous End. We can destroy target non-black creature and its controller will lose 2 life. For 2 in a red, we have Seething Song. We will add 5 red mana to our mana pool. And for 2 in a red, we can cast Trumpet Blast. Attacking creatures we control will get +2/+0 until end of turn. Now let's check out some of our sorceries. For a black and a red, we can cast Angrath's Rampage. We can choose 1. Target player will sacrifice an artifact, target player will sacrifice a creature, or target player will sacrifice a planeswalker. For 2 in a black, we can cast Call of the Death Dweller. We can return up to 2 target creature cards with total converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. Then we can put a Death Touch counter on either of them, and then put a Menace counter on either of them. We also have Cathartic Reunion. For 1 in a red, we have to discard 2 cards, then we can draw 3 cards. For 5 and 3 red, a card that I feel is an absolute must include for any Minotaur commander, we have Deathbellow Warcry. We can search our library for up to 4 Minotaur creature cards with different names, then put them onto the battlefield and shuffle our library. For 3 and a black, we can cast Extinction Event. We'll choose odd or even, and then exile each creature with converted mana cost of that chosen value. For X and 2 black, we can cast Finale of Eternity. We can destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. Then, if X is 10 or more, we can return all creature cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. For 2 and a black, we can cast Hideous Visage. Creatures we control will gain Intimidate until the end of the turn. We also have Insult and Injury, mostly focusing on the insult part of the card. Damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source we control will deal damage, it deals double that damage instead. For 2 black, we can cast Sign in Blood. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. For 3 and a black, we can cast Siphon Mind. Each other player will discard a card from his or her hand, and then we will draw a card for each card discarded this way. And for 4 and a red or a black, we can cast Torrent of Souls. We can return up to 1 target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield if black was used to cast Torrent of Souls. And creatures target player controls get +2/+0 and gain haste if red was used to cast Torrent of Souls. If we used both colors of mana to cast it, we will get both effects. Helping out our Minotaurs, we have 2 Planeswalkers. The first is Koth of the Hammer. For 2 and 2 red, we get a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. We mostly included him for his -2 ability, which will add a red to our mana pool for each mountain we control. And for 2 and 2 black, we can cast Liliana of the Dark Realms. She is a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. Her +1 will help us tutor for a swamp. Her -3 will pump up one of our creatures. And her -6 will help each of our swamps tap for 4 black mana. And last but not least, we have our lands: Bloodfell Caves, Cinder Barrens, Dragonskull Summit, Evolving Wilds, Foreboding Ruins, Myriad Landscape, Rakdos Guildgate, Shadowblood Ridge, and Terramorphic Expanse. We will also have 14 basic mountains and 10 basic swamps. And just like that, we reached the end of another Commander Deck Tech. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, tell your friends about us, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what commanders you would like to see us build around in the future. We really appreciate the support.